this a little bit better as we go along. So it is Friday or Saturday. Yeah, Saturday, July 16th. Man, I'm all over the place because I've had the bug that everyone has that's going around right now. But fortunately, I have a very strong immune system, and so I was able to combat this very quickly and get over it very quickly. And the symptoms were extremely mild, I will say that, just very mild. A little bit of body aches and a little bit of congestion, but other than that, it's all good. And I've been down in this tea. I make fresh tea with chamomile, ginger, lemon balm, lemon verbena, and cloves as well. I boil that all together and drink that all throughout the day. It's so delicious. All that stuff was fresh, except for the cloves and the ginger, of course. Okay, so I want to start by answering a couple of questions from people that I get a lot on the fish fertilizer video now, because that one's kind of blowing up a little bit. I mean, at least for my channel, that's blowing up. So I'm getting a lot of questions about that video. Now, the first question that I get is, why don't you just bury the fish? A lot of people are asking that question. And they'll say, yes, that the Indians used to do it that way, native people do it that way, and they have for thousands of years. This is very true. And that's one way to do it. If you bury the fish, then you're going to attract a community of microorganisms in that specific locality. And you're going to attract earthworms and things like that in that locality, which is great. Which, if you have a plentiful supply of fish, then that's a good option as well. But when you bury the fish or the fish scraps or whatever it is, it's staying localized. When we make this brew out of it, like the J-Dom fish or the fish hydrolysate, when we make the brews, then we are able to disperse those fish proteins and those fish amino acids and the microorganisms. The fungi in the soil love to eat this specific type of protein that is made of the fish fertilizer. So, hello Cinnamon, good to see you. Bob Villa's watching. The fish love to, or the microorganisms, especially fungi, like mycorrhizal fungi, love to consume the fish proteins. So a lot of people are asking me, how do I increase the mycorrhizal fungi in the soil? And contrary to popular belief, there's only one way that you can increase mycorrhizal fungi in the soil, and that is by having a living root in the ground. Listen to this. No amount of spray, a lot of products and stuff like that. And I used to be in the industry, back when I learned all of this stuff. And a lot of products want to talk about that they are going to Gardening by Guthrie. Hello, my friends. Hi, what is your name? My name is Nate Muri. A lot of products, they want to claim that, hello Trish, good morning. A lot of products want to claim that they can increase mycorrhizal fungi in the soil by spraying this on, but that's not necessarily true. Yes, there can be spores. Linnea, hello. There can be spores, mycorrhizal spores in the soil, or in the spray, but the only thing that can produce the exact type of sugar that the mycorrhizal fungi like to eat is a living root in the ground, okay? So don't let anyone trick you into thinking that their solution is going to create more mycorrhizal fungi in the soil. It's not going to, it doesn't work that way. You have to have a living root that is in the ground, that is capturing the sunlight, combining the air, the moisture, the nutrients from the soil, all powered by the sun. So it's all solar powered. And that is what feeds the microorganisms in the soil. I have mushrooms popping up everywhere in my garden. Should I leave them? Oh, absolutely. Mushrooms are a good sign in the garden. Absolutely. A lot of people ask that as well. Symbiotic relationship. Yes, definitely. Yes, with the fungi, it is an absolute symbiotic relationship. The plant captures like I just described, and feeds the sugars into the soil. The plant knows, the intelligence in the plant knows that the type of fungi, the mycorrhizal fungi that it wants, feeds on an exactly specific type of sugar. And so it creates that type of sugar to attract exactly that type of microorganism, that type of fungi. Because the mycorrhizal then go into the soil and they spread out microscopic hair-like little passageways that transport nutrients back to the plant root. That's what they're doing in exchange for the sugars from the plant. The plant's like, look, I'll feed you sugars if you feed me nutrients from the soil. you know, that I can't quite reach. And they're like, yeah, let's do that because this is a win-win. Are you closer to the Canadian border or the Iowa line? I'm right by Chicago. Let's say that. I'm pretty much lateral, or lateral with Chicago. So right about there, right about Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, right about that line. Zone 5B, 6A. And so when we're trying to increase the mycorrhizal or the beneficial bacteria, the fungi in the soil, we want to keep that root in the ground. So cover crop, and then vegetable crop, and then cover crop. You have a cute chipmunk family, as I thought about them. Seeds. I thought if I gave them nuts and seeds offering, that would leave my garden alive. You thought that you would get rid of the chipmunks by leaving nuts and seeds as an offering? I'm sorry, I don't think it works that way. Have you thought about making a video about gardening without gas rototiller? Oh, absolutely. I don't use a gas rototiller. But like I said in some of my other videos, it's very beneficial to do the one-time initial till where you incorporate a lots of organic matter. See, it's so popular on YouTube and stuff now to just lay down cardboard and lay down 12 inches of compost over that, and voila, you've got a market garden and stuff. And yeah, that can work, but you also don't see the massive amounts of compost that takes. And that will all break down, and I've done it this way, so I know that breaks down to be like 1/4 of an inch of actual soil on top of rock solid clay. So if you're gonna start a garden and you have a bit of foresight, the best thing to do is grow a cover crop all season on the first season, and then made a video on deter the garlic pest control thing. Yes, the garlic will definitely deter them. If it's chipmunks and stuff like that, go for fox and coyote urine. That's the best way to do it. Go to the hunting store, get a bottle of fox or coyote urine, dab it onto strips of t-shirt, and then hang those t-shirts at the perimeter of the garden area. You will not see another one because it's the predator scent, the scent of the predator urine, and that will keep them things away. Okay, we used to have to do that in the mountains all the time. So, oh man, I was on a train of thought, but yeah, that's the thing with the live thing. It's just so many things, and there's so many questions popping up, and which is great, but I have to focus to say on one train of thought. You're welcome, Trish. So they ask about burying the fish. So remember to hit that like button. I run amok. Thank you. You said that last time and I forgot, okay? Cinnamon says, my Tahitian melon squash seeds sprouted in 3 days. So excited, man. When the conditions are right, they will, you can't stop them things from growing. I mean, the vine stalk on that thing will, compost building, yes. Discuss lowering acid in sandy soil. The vine on them Tahitian melon squash can get like 30 feet long, and they can produce like 100 pounds. They can produce like 8 of those big giant things per plant, you know, and the leaves can be like this big. Thank you, I run amok. I was talking about cover crop, and that's right. If you're trying to start a garden, and I'll show you guys this stuff in the fall time, exactly how to do it, because I'm doing all different kinds of things around the city. The best way to do it is to, okay, if I want to start a garden, I plant a cover crop the first year, and then the spring of that following year, I'm going to till all that under. One time initial till. Get it all nice and tilled in there so that the organic matter is in there, and you break up that hard pan. That's so important. And then you can go with heavy mulch on top of that for the years after that. But it's really beneficial to break up that hard pan that first year, because so many people just want to put down the cardboard and put down the compost, and then they're like, well, my stuff's not really doing all that good. Why? Well, that's because you've got a couple layers of organic matter, just an inch or two, or even 12 inches, but then rock solid, impenetrable clay underneath that. The roots are gonna get all excited in that compost and then go down into that clay and be like, they're just gonna suffocate. And you'll see that is a lot of issues that people have. So one-time initial till with that cover crop in there, and then do the heavy mulch thing. Man, I love fresh chamomile. There's so many blooms on it. It's just crazy amount of blooms. Two plants is producing hundreds of blooms. And I use it for tea all winter long. So another question was, it's at a different location. Is the Three Sisters garden at a different location? Yes, it's about 10 minutes that way at this Buddhist temple. And that one this year, because there's no irrigation, there's zero irrigation at that at that garden plot. And in the previous years in this location, that's not been a problem. There's been plenty of water, and I've got water saving techniques and stuff. But this year, man, I planted stuff and we went like 7 weeks without a drop of rain. And I don't care who you are, what kind of technique you're using, no plant can go 7 weeks in the blazing hot sun. It turned that soil to like concrete. I mean, trying to take like a shovel to that soil, it was like chink, chink, like concrete. So yeah, they're not doing very well this year. Although there will still be something for sure. It's not going to be as bountiful as the previous years. That's for sure. But hey, you know, you have to account for all that kind of stuff. The weed barrier is really a great tool in the garden. Everything is growing like gangbusters with the cloth. Absolutely, yeah, man, it's a game changer. That weed barrier, as much as we don't like to use the plastics and stuff like that and become dependent on stuff like that, there is, I mean, that's like a balance of modern technology and stuff. And it's finally raining. I'm so happy. I was about to break out. Rain dance. I know, man. It's raining here today too, which is awesome. It's rained like twice in the past 2 months, which we desperately need. But yeah, having that weed fabric just changes the game, because now's about the time when most people's gardens are getting to be overrun by weeds. You know, there's a lot of weeds going on, but with that weed fabric, keeps it all suppressed and it retains the water. What's really good if you live in an arid climate, like I used to do this in California when I learned how to use all this stuff, was we would lay drip lines, drip tape, rolls of drip tape. We would lay it underneath like 2 layers. You know, if the plant was here in the center, we'd lay 2 layers of, or 2 tracks of drip line underneath the land and then roll the fabric over that. And then that's the way to do it, because then you can just slowly secrete all the good stuff into the root zone, you know, and it all stays right there. The J Dom stuff. Hello from South Africa. Hello, Velvet. Hello from Midwestern USA. And that landscaping fabric, man, is the really good stuff. And then you can drip emit the J Dom solution, the JLFs, all that stuff, and then foliar feed once a week. That's the way to do it. And because one of my next videos is going to, or I think my very next one is going to be about how to apply all of this stuff. You have to put the drip tape on top of the barrier. That also works. Yeah, that also works. It just, by putting it underneath the barrier, you don't have to hold it down, and it makes it, you know, a little bit easier. But on top of the barrier works just fine too. Yeah. This is like a mental exercise in trying to keep the point of what you're trying to say throughout all these different layers of like questions and things like that. It's funny. I have a new lasagna garden made last fall. Close interplanting, not many weeds at all. Plants are booming. Yes, awesome. Lasagna gardening is a very good technique as well. Close planting, definitely. When the soil is shaded out, the other stuff just doesn't grow that much. But there's also a fine balance between learning how to live with the weeds. As you've seen from my weed video, there are no weeds really. They're building soil. It's a living root in the ground. But you remove the ones that need to be removed, but then you can let the rest of them go. And that's what most people don't understand. They think that every single, it's like, yeah, it is like 21 toddlers trying to ask questions. Oh, see, it just happened right there. Oh man, okay, I need to go back and see. Lowering acid in sandy soil. I live in sand. J-Dom runs right through. Yeah, and you're gonna wanna increase that organic matter in the sandy soil. I've had sandy soil gardens, and you wanna increase that let the weeds grow. Oh, yes. You want to increase that organic matter. Leaf mold really is the best. Also, biochar can help with sandy soils, but you're gonna have to change the composition a little bit. So just compost, organic matter, leaf mold. Leaf mold's the best of the best, really. And you can incorporate that stuff. Also a nice heavy layer of mulch. Mulching is so important. That's how nature does it. Remember, when you go to the forest or anywhere in nature, plants grow, they fall on top of the surface. They don't get tilled in, ever. And boom, boom, it all falls. Nature never tills in anything. It lays it. It's better to start cabbage and cauliflower direct or indoors. Right now, you better get on. I don't know exactly where you are, but you better get on planting those things. At this point, probably just direct sow them. Because in about a week, we want to start to be planting our fall cabbages. And mine are not very big right now. I mean, they're just transplants, you know, but that's enough. It gives them that jump start. So in about a week, and then for about a week, about the last week of July, we want to be planting our fall garden cabbages, okay? And then in the first week of August, we're going to be planting our fall peas, which always go for a dwarf variety. Remember, always go for a dwarf variety for the fall planting, because the big tall telephone type, the big tall sweet peas, those are great, but they spend so much time building an infrastructure first, and then they produce. So we don't have time for that in the fall planting. So go for dwarf peas, okay? This is very important. Watching from Saudi Arabia, wow. Nice to have you. I can't even imagine, well, I can't imagine what gardening would be like. I've been to very arid places like that. If you're in the arid part of Saudi Arabia, yes, I spent a long time driving a motorcycle through India, through the Thar Desert of India, to the border of Pakistan, and then up north into Manali, into the foothills of the Himalayas and everything. So I have an idea what desert is like, at least. And another question that people ask me about the fish fertilizer video is, so they say, man, why don't we eat it first? Can I still plant seeds? Can I still plant from seed, or am I too late? First frost date is around November 1st. Oh yeah. Can you still plant what from seed? That really depends. You have to look at the days to harvest, days to maturity. But if you're talking about, man, you've got enough time. You could plant a crop of Yukon Gold potatoes even. I mean, you could plant bush green beans. You can plant beets, carrots, cabbages. Yes, all that stuff can go. It's too late for Brussels sprouts, but yes. Okay, speaking of leaf mold, do I really need to find the biggest tree in the oldest forest, or is the pile of leaves on my compost fine for making the J-Down fertilizer with potatoes? Hello, Mohan. Yes, that's another huge question that I'm getting, is about the leaf mold. Now, I'm going to make a video on the leaf mold, but, you know, I'm describing I'm describing the J-Down methods for a lot of things, although it's important we don't just become entrenched in one method only. We need to, it's important to be diverse, in my opinion, about what works for my area and what doesn't work, you know. But the purpose of the leaf mold is to get the indigenous microorganisms, the old microorganisms that are already been in our area, have already been conditioned. Okeechobee, Florida. Yes, hello. Those microorganisms in the leaf mold from the biggest, oldest tree have already been conditioned to thrive in our area. They've already been conditioned on the temperature extremes. They already know about the climate, all of that kind of stuff. And so they're going to be the most hardy in our exact area. That's why we do that. Now, if you can't find the leaf mold in the biggest, oldest forest, then yes, you can make it yourself. And there's a couple techniques for that, which is beyond the scope of this video, but I will show you in future videos, a couple techniques to use. Yes, and at the end of the day, if you have good finished compost, you can use that as well, okay? Can you spread all over the world? Stop using chemical fertilizer and pesticide. Yes, yes, my friend, that is exactly the message. Not just because it's, oh, it hurts the environment and stuff, which it does, of course, but because it makes us dependent, addicted to to these chemical fertilizers. When you use chemical fertilizers, you are bypassing the natural system of things in the soil food web, where you put organic matter. What to plant for the fall? Yes, Trish, I will. You put organic matter into the soil, and bacteria and fungi have to first digest that, and then the nematodes and protozoa then eat the bacteria and the fungi, and then the arthropods come in and eat those, and it's a big web of activity that makes that initial piece of fish or whatever it is available to the plant roots to be able to uptake. Okay, so what chemical fertilizers do is they bypass that whole natural cycle, and in a laboratory-based chemical, they create something that the plant can absorb immediately by itself. So it doesn't have to go through that process of decomposition, the soil food web, which has been happening for billions of years, or at least a very long time. And so, but what happens, I mean, that sounds great, okay, but what happens is that starves the microorganisms to death. The soil food web does not become nourished with chemical fertilizers because it bypasses the whole thing, and so it starves them. And it's very irritating. The salts in the chemical fertilizers are highly irritating to things like earthworms and the arthropods that do a lot of the heavy lifting in the soil. That's why the chemical fertilizers, you have to continue using them because you don't build soil. So if you want to use them for 2 or 5 years or something, 10 years, then you stop using them and think that you're just going to go straight to gardening, there's no way that that's going to work because you have dead soil. And that's the dilemma that we are going to be running into big time as a civilization. Especially, I live in the Midwest of America, where you drive through the country, and I'll make a video sometime. As far as you can see in both directions is corn and soybeans. Literally horizon to horizon. That's a long way, okay, with little tiny patches of forest that is left, because this whole place used to be nothing but forest. It used to be 200, 300 years ago, this was all forest. They said a squirrel could go from the Mississippi River to the East Coast without ever touching the ground. And of course, I believe that. It was all an endless expanse of old growth forest. But we have cut all that down because of progress and because of farming. And so now you look at this and you just see these wastelands, these biological deserts. And that is what we are running into. And that is what is going to have to come to an end one way or the other, because you can't just keep applying more and more and more fertilizer and expect to not have, okay, corn, soybeans, cows, pigs here in the Midwest. Got that right, Big Jake. I'd love to see your garden too. Cinnamon, woohoo, but caught a live stream. Yeah, Legato. Yes, he caught the live stream. Quickly becoming one of my favorite gardening channels. Thank you very much. I started the channel because I just felt like, because I had another channel, I still do, but I haven't posted lately, but where I kind of talk about current events, or I kind of talk about the state of affairs in the world and things like that, just my opinion on things. But then I got to the point where I was like, okay, how many times can I say, start growing a garden, guys? Guys, food supply interruptions is gonna be coming. I mean, I can't just keep saying that over and over. So I started this channel 4 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, to be like, okay, well, here it is. Just start growing your own food, okay? I can share this stuff because this has been my passion, and it just turns out that people are hungry for this kind of knowledge, because the channel is doing really well by my standards. I'm very happy with the way everything is going. And because I get to talk about my passion more and more. I mean, who doesn't really want to do that, Okay, hi Nate, do you measure the Brix level of your plants? No, I don't. Now, I used to when I was grown commercially in Northern California, but I do not do that anymore because there's no need to do that. Once you have a thriving soil food web and you understand the components that involves, and you know that you're feeding it the right nutrition, then nature takes care of itself in that regard. So we don't have to worry about the Brix content of the plants. But that being said, I came from knowing the Brix content and testing and seeing when I would feed molasses, if that would actually, enhance it in the plant. But Nowadays, no. I don't test anything. I don't test NPK. I don't test pH. Never ever pH the soil and all that stuff. There's no need, my friends. That has been implanted in people's mind by the industrial ag complex, because contrary to popular understanding, the plant root adjusts the pH of the soil directly in the rhizosphere, directly in the area surrounding the root. The plant knows how to adjust the pH to exactly how it wants. So there's no need to buy hundreds of pounds of lime and all of this other stuff if you have a proper soil food web, okay? Nate, are you gonna add any new installments to your Saga channel? I binged them last weekend hey, that's awesome. Yes, come fall time, I'm gonna be picking back up on that kind of stuff. Definitely, you know, because that's when I'm gonna be finishing the book this year. Because I don't know if you guys all know, but I went on like a 10-year odyssey around the world. And it was only meant to last a year, but it lasted 10 years. And so I have another channel called The Saga of Nate Muri, where I sort of have begun to illustrate that stuff. But yes, I'll be picking it up in the fall. Food prices here more than doubled. We're suffering. I want to know if I can use that weed fertilizer from the weeds outside into my hydroponic system. You know, hydroponics, a lot of people have asked me that, and my experience with hydroponics has been that it does not use the soil food web. And so, to me, that's a completely different kind of farming. I think that you could, so long as you keep it, well, it's just a whole different animal, actually. I'm not even gonna I don't have enough authority in that hydroponic realm to understand that. So when I was doing hydroponics, it was pure chemicals, general hydroponic chemicals, pure chelates, you know, ammonium phosphates and all of this, pure petroleum ag chemicals, because that was all that it could be, you know. That would be an awesome experiment. Yeah, if anyone does use these in hydroponics, please, yeah, hydroponics also requires power for the pump. In my mind, this is nothing against you. If you want to do hydroponics, go all for it, man. I'm totally about it. But to me, that can't be the way of the future, because it requires electricity and it doesn't nourish the soil. It doesn't regenerate the land, you know. So homemade liquid ferts is the thing. Garden, yes, thank you, Angela. Could you use bone blood fish meal and hydrolyze that? Yes, you can if you wish to. You can use blood, bone, fish meal, and then Falcon, new to the channel, welcome aboard, my friend. You can use the blood, bone, and all that stuff, put it into a 5-gallon bucket or a 55-gallon drum, whatever your scale is, and with that stuff, I mean, you could do the leaf mold, do a slow ferment with the leaf mold, okay? And the total anaerobic, and the leaf mold and stuff. But also you could do it in the way that I made the fish hydrolysate. See, by adding that lactic acid bacteria and the sugar, that changes everything. A lot of people are on that fish video, that J-Don fish video, they're like, hey, well, I want to use sugar. I use sugar and it happens a lot faster and blah, blah, blah. And that's great, and that works, but that's a totally different substance, okay? Different set of microorganisms, different pH, it's different. So if you want to, I've ripped out my entire garden and started over the Viking way. Thank you, David. I'm all for it. Salute from Trinidad and Tobago. Do you use seaweed for your gardening? I used to use it when I lived on the coast of California. Yes, it's the best thing you can use. Seaweed is incredible. Full of all kinds of micronutrients. It's everything. I am Jose from Uganda. Hello, Kalyango. Welcome, my friends. I'm so glad to see so many people from all over the world. So yes, if you wanted to use, I'm going to finish that thought on the fertilizer. If you wanted to use the 5-gallon bucket with the blood and the bone meal, you can do all of that, okay? But add the lactic acid bacteria, because that is going to lower the pH of the mixture, and with the molasses or the brown sugar, it's going to speed up the ferment and make it really like a bacterially dominated brew, okay? Because that's what the bacteria like. They like sugars like that. And so lactic acid is going to decompose it way faster than naturally it would using the J-Dom. Out of curiosity, can I use anything from a deer, turkey, rabbit, pheasant that I hunt? I hate throwing any. Okay, Big Jake says, can I use deer, turkey, rabbit, pheasant, anything that I hunt? Yes, that you can. Now, I haven't made a video on this one yet, though. A lot of people have been asking, but yes, you can do anything in this way. It's going to take a lot longer to break down, but you can just throw dead carcasses into the barrel and the leaf mold and let it decompose that way with the water. Okay. You can also bury them. You can also bury them directly into the garden. That's a really good way for scraps, animal meat scraps and stuff, to bury it plenty deep next to plants, or where you're going to plant a plant on top of that. Hello from Greece, Kalimera. Yes, man. I spent maybe 8 months in Greece or something like this. Wait, who was that? Was that Yorga? Okay. Yeah, I used to live in Greece, man. I loved it. I lived in Palaros by the island of Lefkada. Let's see. Yes, so you can use any of that stuff, Big Jake. Don't be afraid, okay? But the best way with meats and stuff, in my opinion, is to bury it. And then that goes right to work. From London, hello, London. Watching from Nigeria, hello, Arwewe. Stupid question. Are you of Scandinavian scent or Viking in spirit? Both, actually. My family, both sides, is from Scandinavia. And I'm also the Viking in spirit, of course, because the Vikings were ingenuitive and they adapted and flowed with their environment. They absorbed what was useful and disregarded the rest. And when they found something that was better than the current way of doing things, they flowed right to that. That's why the Vikings were never defeated. They simply assimilated into the cultures that they conquered. Yes. So we can use that same mentality. So both in spirit and physically in bloodline. Yes. Someone Bill, hello from Ghana. Can I use J-Dom method to produce corn? Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. You can use the J-Dom method to produce corn because it works really, really well. Let's see if you can see it. This is just one of the plots, but if you can see back there, I've got corn that's like 7 feet tall already. It's starting to tassel and everything. It's this garden is busting out big time. And this is a lot of the stuff that I'm eating on a day-to-day basis. The storage crops like the winter squash and a lot more potatoes and a lot of of the dry corn, that kind of stuff is at a different place. You know, I got a couple different locations, you know. Thessaloniki. Yorgo is from Thessaloniki. Man, I used to go, oh wow, I used to go to a very beautiful cavern, a riverway there. We used to hike up and then walk all the way, float down the river. It was amazing. Thessaloniki, yes. I'm making J-Dom with spoiled breast milk. Wow. That's cool, man. That's, or ma'am. That's, I would definitely do that. No need to waste. My corn flopped so bad. First time I tried it and used 10-10-10. Won't do that again. Yeah, it just, you know, the thing with the chemical fertilizers is when you begin using them, it's like you got to keep using them because it destroys the soil food web. And many would say that that was by design. Yes? If you're a company and you want people to get their plants physically addicted and dependent on chemicals that you sell, well, that's an awesome business model, isn't it? Yeah, here, use our stuff. You'll get incredible results, but you can't stop using it because it wrecks your soil and the environment. So just keep buying more. That's the business model. I mean, it works for them, obviously. So what could be the best organic fertilizer for Stevia and tomatoes? Man, the J-Dom. You want the J-Dom. The liquid fertilizer, the fish fertilizer, foliar with the fish fertilizer. Guys, when you get healthy, thriving soil with a thriving soil food web, it doesn't matter what plant you put into it. It's gonna thrive. It's just going to. So remember, we feed the soil, not the plants. My pole beans don't have any blossoms. What can I do? Unfortunately, you just have to wait. Now, I don't know what the temperature is like. If your pole beans don't have any blossoms, It'll come. They're really slow this year for some reason in my area as well. I'm seeing them. I mean, they're real slow, but I'm definitely getting some. Okay. From the majestic lands of Wichita, Kansas, Charlie J. Okay, yes, I drove through Kansas a number of times. What could be the best? My corn. Okay, thank you. The Moyoma. Yes, you're welcome. Cinnamon one. Wish I could partner. No one gardens around me. They all have lots of land to do it. I know. It's mind-blowing when you see people, but we've been conditioned. This has been conditioned in us to not know how to grow our own stuff. And instead we'll spend all this time and money and effort mowing these big, massive plots of land to keep it nice and mowed and spray chemicals on it, but then drive to the store to buy all of our stuff. You know, an inferior garbage kind of food anyways that is killing us slowly. So once you wake up to this kind of things, it's insanity. And you see it everywhere. You can't unsee it. Once you see the insanity of the modern way, you can't unsee it. And you just have to come to terms with it and do what you can to bring back the old ways, which will have to be the new ways because this time is very short. We don't want to eat food from the supermarkets. Monsanto, disgusting and expensive. As growing up, we never heard the word cancer in kids. Angela, that's exactly right. We don't want to eat the foods from the supermarket. Growing up, we never heard the words cancer. That's right. The indigenous peoples didn't really know about any of this kind of stuff. All the modern ailments that we get are not things that you catch either. You develop them through lifestyle. You don't catch cancer, you develop it. You don't catch diabetes, you develop it. You don't catch heart disease, you develop it. Yes? Eric Trainer, thanks for all the knowledge. You are welcome, my friend. My soil is gorgeous. I think that's why as an experiment, not really growing with it. Greetings from Amityville. Oh, Matthew, my buddy. Greetings from Amityville, Long Island, toy gardener as well. I never thought of the lawn and the food connection. Oh, absolutely, my friend. Especially around here, and you see it with people. And they've just got these huge, like 2-3 acres of just mowed lawn, and all this stuff. There's not one dandelion or clover or weed, nothing for the bees. And then they're like, well, why? How is this? Where's all the bees going? Because it's a wasteland it's a desert for the bees. There's nothing for them to eat on your chemical saturated lawn. Why aren't you growing food for yourself and your families? Then maybe you wouldn't have to work 90 hours a week if you grew most of your stuff and lived completely within your means and tamed your desires. You know, but once you see it, you can't unsee it, you know, my friends. Honestly, the mowing is what got me to start building my own garden. I would rather put work into what I can eat as opposed to cutting non-native invasive species of grass. Perfectly well said. That's exactly, I mean, you're putting in effort one way or the other. So why not have it be producing food and nourishing the land, replenishing the land? Hit the like button, folks. He deserves it from us. Thank you very much, James. I guess that chat skipped my post. Timothy, repost it, man. I mean, there's tons of things, but repost it. I have 2.5 acres of grass transforming effort that I don't currently have. Well, that's true, but what, are you mowing it? You have 2.5 acres of grass. Transforming it requires an immense amount of effort that I don't currently have. Are you mowing it? Because you could easily plant wildflowers, at least, I mean, I don't know your particular situation, but so made a fermented plant juice from grass. Wow, it was awesome. I went to try dandelions and stinging nettle. Yeah, fermented plant juice. I'm gonna do a video on those too soon. The thing with, and I'm sure that you know, the thing with making fermented plant juice, or FPJ, is that you want it to be a fast growing, the most obnoxious weed type plants that you can get are actually the best. And you want the growing tips of those plants to make the FPJ because the tips of the plants are saturated with the growth hormone auxin. And so we take all of those from the really vigorous plants in the area and we ferment them with the brown sugar, extract that, and that's going to extract the auxin, the growth hormones. Currently mowing, okay, well, your mind's in the right place, I run amok. You're currently mowing, but you let the other stuff go. Your mind is in the right, your heart is in the right place, and that's what matters. It will all come around. Sadly, my town got mad about how tall I let my wild lettuce get, so I started cutting it down. Yeah, I know. Then they make rules saying, you can't, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good, so you got to cut it all down. We need it to be just grass, you know, that's doing nothing for the environment or for us. I did the potatoes, and Timothy says, I did the potatoes in bags, old dog food bags. I think they got too hot and moist. Harvested some and they were rotted in the bag. Cutting knife suits for drainage must not have been enough. I mulched. Well, I would have to see exactly, but yeah. I don't know how big those dog food bags are, you know, or what they're made of, but you definitely want to have the good drainage in them. And you want to put them close enough together that they shade each other out. That is very, very important. The potato bags is what we're talking about. So if you can see here, that entire fence line, I've got 15 bags of the potatoes, and they are going crazy right now. But they're so tightly packed together that that they shade each other out. That is important. If you just have 1 or 2 bags out in the sun, they are going to get too hot. Yeah, depending on where you live. If you live in Ireland, or somewhere like Shelter Cove in Northern California, then yeah, no problem, because it's nice and overcast and mild all the time. Okay, a few more. I wanted to keep these to a half hour, but I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, if people are into it and I'm into it. So we're all ready. Too late of organic people and bees dying. Yes. I know, some would say it's too late. Some would say it's too late. I have a few acres of sand, grass hates it, but I get a lot of milkweed, lamb's quarters, and mullein, plus a few other things I haven't identified. Hey, milkweed is fantastic for the butterflies, and lamb's quarters is edible. If you top wild lettuce, it will send out multiple new tops. That's what I do, and you get to harvest dramatically more. That's right, that's right. So let's see, was there a few more things I wanted to say? My husband and I are so thankful for the information, and by the way, he loves the Viking movie. Nice. Yes, there's a great resurgence in the Viking culture, even though I've always been into it, obviously, since I was a kid. My family has always been all about our heritage. Okay, my friends, is there any more burning questions? Anything that I didn't cover? Let's see. And the final thing I wanted to say about the fish and the leaf mold, or is the question about the leaf or the fish fertilizer video. A lot of people saying, why don't you eat it first, as if it's being wasteful? But my friends, I assure you, it is not being wasteful, because we are eating it. When we take the fish and we convert it into fish fertilizer, we are eating the entire fish in another way. It's just by another route. We're using the whole fish, bones, guts, everything, eyeballs. So we are eating it. This is in no way wasteful. Don't think, oh, that's so terrible. It's not really, okay? Because the whole fish is better than fish scraps, in my experience. And I've done it so many different ways. Someday I'll tell you guys the full story. Maybe if you watch my other channel, The Saga of Nate Muri, eventually we will get to the point where, in the storytelling, where I explain the 7 years I spent living way off grid in Northern California. So I love the fish concept. Matthew, always great to see you, man. If you eat the meat from the fish, can't you just use more fish? Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you totally can. If you eat the fish and then just use scraps, perfectly fine as well. But I'm saying it's also perfectly fine, it's not wasteful if we don't eat it in that way, because we are eating it another way through growing more food. So, and I think I did already say this though, but if you bury it in the ground like a lot of indigenous people do, that's great, okay? That works, but by fermenting it into the liquid, we make it shelf stable so we can utilize it all throughout the season, and we can foliar feed the leaves with it. And that's what we really want to be doing, because it inoculates a good beneficial type of bacteria and microorganisms in the leaves, and the plants suck it up. Foliar feeding is like mainlining for the plants. They really love it. They'll afterwards. So foliar feed the Thanks a lot for the information. You are very welcome. John Doe asked a question higher up. John Doe asked a question higher up. One garden at a time. One garden at a time will beat Big Ag. That's right. That's right, my friend. Thanks again. Okay, I'm trying to find this question. What do you think about interplanting legumes? Does it actually help with nitrogen, or is it just a good... Man, anything in the legume family, peas, beans, any of the legumes, they do wonders for the soil, my friends. Anything that you plant after peas or beans will do better than if you didn't plant them. So a lot of times I would even plant a crop of bush beans, because they only take 50 days. And plant a crop of bush beans, and once they start getting some beans, cut the whole plant. Leave the roots in the ground. You always have to leave the roots in the ground, okay? About the nitrogen fixing the legumes and things, beans and peas. So cut them and harvest the whole plant, and then plant something else immediately into there. And you will see that the plants do incredible, because there's all that nitrogen. It's the microorganisms that are in the soil. So always leave the roots of the peas or the beans in the soil, because it's already attracted rhizobial bacteria. And what that does, the reason that peas and beans, let me just hit you with this real quick. The reason that the peas and beans are so beneficial to the soil is because they have a certain type of bacteria on their roots that harvest nitrogen out of the air, because the air that you are breathing right now is 79% nitrogen. We don't even breathe nitrogen. We don't even use it. It's 79% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, and 1% all other gases combined, including carbon dioxide. That's why it's kind of trivial. But so these peas and beans, they have a certain type of bacteria. They produce sugars that attracts a certain type of bacteria that knows how to suck the nitrogen out of thin air and then release carbon dioxide and oxygen into the roots, and then release the nitrogen into a plant available form. That's why they're so good. So if you pull up pea roots or bean roots and you see the little white nodules on them, that is that bacteria. Pure nitrogen, pure awesome stuff. How long should the weed tea set before it's ready to use? Depending on temperature, 10 days if it's in the blazing sun. But you'll see it, mix it up and look, and you want it to be nice and broke down and black and stuff. I mean, you can use it as pretty much as soon as you want, but it gets better with time, okay? And that's really what's important, is that it gets better with time. So you can start using all these ferments, you can start using after just a couple of weeks. Garden into bush beans. That was probably after your live 2 weeks ago. I followed your advice and planted every square inch of open garden area into bush beans. They are sprouting up everywhere. That is awesome, Carlicia. You are going to have very fertile soil. So you can let the bush beans go to total fruition and to harvest them, or if you want to plant something else like cabbages or something like that, because we're going into the fall, you can just cut the immature plant and use it as a sacrificial type plant, a soil builder, and then plant your cabbage right into there, right into the midst of the roots, okay? And that's gonna supercharge everything. You'll see what it does. It's a big difference. If you do a controlled experiment with one area where you plant bush beans or peas, and then one area where you just put down some manure, and then you plant after that, you will see that the one with the bush beans is far superior to just manure. It's incredible the way that it works. So can you add water to it after using some? Yes, you absolutely can. So you use some of the fertilizer, and then you can refill it with the water. Yeah, and you just keep doing it that way. And the weeds are gonna break down, and you just add more. Add handfuls of purslane or clovers, really good ones, high in nitrogen. Pull up the roots even of the clover, add it all in there. And as it keeps breaking down, it's gonna break down to just pure liquid. And so next time, maybe we'll do it outside in the garden. Maybe next weekend we'll do it outside in the garden. And I will show you guys my actual fertilizers, what they look like, how they're brewing, and answer your questions more specifically about that. But yes, you just consume it and then use it, and refill it. And But the thing is, we don't empty these all the way, okay? We don't empty these completely at the end of the year. We let it go to the next year, and it doesn't matter if it freezes solid, all that is gonna be totally fine. I mean, mine freeze solid for like 2 months straight, and they're fine. So just make sure that your container can handle that. Someone says something about it smelling. Yes, any of these ferments are gonna smell. They're gonna smell pretty much seriously. Do you plan on doing this Saturday again next week? Yes, I think for now, I'll just plan on Saturdays at noon. Yeah, Saturdays at noon. And yes, any of your ferments are gonna smell. That's just, but you have to have a tight fitting lid. See, if you look at some of my barrels, they've got their pickle barrels. So you screw on the lid, it's got an O-ring on it. Now this is important because I first started making these years ago without the tight fitting lid, and constantly it reeked, that everything smelled. And so I needed to make sure, I was like, man, this is not gonna work because everything smells so gnarly. Hello from London, Ohio. Hello from Fort Wayne. And so once I learned that you have to have an airtight container, that's when the smell stopped, okay? Or at least just barely tiny little whiffs of this or that. And then when you go to use it, it's so diluted that it doesn't really matter. Yes, J. Dom says putrid denotes fermentation. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, that's all part of the process. It's not a bad thing. That if someone thinks it's a bad thing, yes, absolutely not. It is a good sign of the process, and it's just gonna smell. That's the way it is. I mean, that's what growing food is all about. But it doesn't have to smell obnoxious though. You have an airtight container and you dilute it properly. And here's the key, if you make a natural pesticide like the mint or the oregano or the lavender or the marigold one, the Jadam pest herbal solution, if you use like marigolds, to do it, then you can add that to the solution at the same time you add the fertilizers, and it completely masks the smell. I mean, it totally masks it up so that it smells pleasant. It's like Chad says, don't breathe it in, simple. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much simple. Stop buying dirt. I have an oak forest. I'm following every bit info that you're giving us. The dirt from bags are, man, absolutely. The stuff from the bags is a joke. I mean, it is a joke, especially, I used to use lots of bags in Northern California, and it's crazy the amount of resources and effort that it takes to get this stuff here, to get the stuff to where you're planting. And contrary to popular belief, what is sold in bags is not soil. It is soil-less potting medium. So soil is just sand, silt, and clay with microorganisms involved, okay? But this stuff, what you get in the bags is pretty much peat moss or shredded bark. And there's not much nutrients in that. That's just not how we build soil. So at all costs, try to work with the natural system that you have and create your own compost. Leaf mold is the best. You can plant in pure leaf mold. So I'll be showing you guys all different kinds of methods. It's wood chips basically, yes and no. Yes and no. The good wood chips that people use are the whole plant wood chips, where they just shred like the arbor chips. They shred the green as well. And that becomes like compost because you're mixing greens and browns sort of together. And that breaks down really good after lots of time and microorganism activity. But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. Okay, few more. I never thought to add my mint to help with the fermentation smell. Yes, definitely. No need to add to the barrel itself, but when you apply it is when you add it. Because I don't think it will help. It won't help much with the if you put it into the barrel. The Japanese beetles. Oh man, I know. A lot of people having big issues with bag soils and nightshades this year. I believe that. Because the bag soil companies, like everyone else, are feeling the squeeze. They're feeling the crunch. And so the transportation costs, you know how much it costs to, how heavy soil is? Think about transporting a pallet of soil, how much energy that takes to do. And now with diesel prices and all of this shipping prices and all the shortages and stuff, so the soil companies, they're going to cut corners any way that they can because this is the new normal. Everyone's getting squeezed hard. And so I have noticed that the quality, this year in particular, the quality of the potting soils has plummeted. It has plummeted. And it's going to keep getting that way. I mean, they're going to keep doing that. They're going to keep cutting every cost that they can. If there's one ingredient that they can use, just a cheaper one, just go ahead and use that cheaper one, you know, because it'll just make more money for us. And that's all that matters to a business. Roots and Refuse got stung on their channel, outed, and literally hundreds of people saying the same thing. Okay, yeah, I did hear something about that. That they had some real whack compost delivered or something like that was stunting their stuff. And that's because people are trying to make a business out of it, because there's now a massive influx of people doing the cardboard and compost method, you know, which is great. But like I explained at the beginning of the video, it's not the end all unless you're producing it all yourself. When I am adding soil to the potato bag method, do I just keep adding until I get to the top of the bag? Yes, you can. But it depends what kind of potato you have. If you have one of the very few indeterminate ones, then yes, you can do that. But if you have the vast majority of the other ones, like the Yukons or the Ketadines or the Kennebecs, then there's no need, because contrary to popular belief, soil or potatoes, when you plant the potato, here's the potato, which is a tuber, it puts roots down and shoots plants upwards, and then it puts tubers at the exact same level of the original potato. So there's no need to hill it up anymore. The reason people hill up potatoes is to keep them from being exposed to the light. That's the only reason. Not to produce more potatoes. Unless you have one of the few varieties of true indeterminate potatoes that will continue to produce up the stalk. But yes, you can just add more, but there's no need. You're not going to get, so long as everything's totally covered and not exposed to light, that's enough. You're not going to need. Most of the mixes have no nutrition other than the synthetics which are added. And some which list compost are filled with Grazon herbicide. Oh, Grazon's everywhere, man. People just spraying it all over the place. It's crazy. I live right in the midst. I know all about that stuff. And it's horrible. And it's nutritionally vacant. I mean, and that's the thing about organic. See, what we do on this channel is natural farming, which is far beyond even organic. Because organic, it's better than conventional, yes, but organic, you can use a soilless potting medium, a pure peat-based moss planting medium, and you can fertilize it then with nutrients, bottled nutrients that you buy from the store, bottled fish fertilizer, and you can call that organic. Now, the nutrient density of that food is not going to be anywhere near the nutrient density from natural farming, where you have a thriving soil food web with real soil and real ingredients, and you've built that, and the food web is thriving. That's going to create a produce that's so much more nutrient dense. Every part of creation serves the life around it. Do we? That's a very good question, my friend. Are we part of the problem or the solution? Okay, indeterminate. Oh, you truly have indeterminate variety, Carlicia? Okay, then yes, keep filling it up until the top of the bag, yeah. Yep. And the leaves, if you bury some of the leaves, they'll just rot off and create roots and more shoots out of there. So yeah, you just fill it all the way up. Yeah. Stomp the Dragon says he's noticed some of the flowering baskets are growing in a very light, it's pure peat. It's pure peat moss, which is mined basically in a very, very energy intensive way from resources that are never going to be replenished in our lifetime. It's a geological time frame, so we're just consuming all this shit, this bags of peat moss, and it's never coming back. And yes, they do flowers that way. Almost all the stuff you see from greenhouses, all that stuff, they all use that stuff. I mean, it's really unbelievable once you start to see the scope of the system that we've been forced and born into. Okay, one of the last questions here. Okay, I have no experience growing. How do you know when to move the plants to a bigger pot? Now, it depends what plant it is. Many plants, most food plants, you don't want to repot, because once they start producing food or flowers or blooms, they're not going to want to then go back into the stage where they're producing roots and shoots. Okay, so would you do any group meditation session live? Oh man, absolutely, Trish. That would probably be on my other channel though, you know, just to keep it specific. But definitely, I'm all about doing the group meditations. Yeah, I've done that many times. The flowers, yeah, oh yeah, the flowers grown in it are not healthy. No, absolutely not, because it's not real. It's not, there's no nutrients in it. You have to add the nutrients through chemicals. All those flower companies and stuff, it's all peat moss and then chemicals on top. So it's, I have them in a plastic cup. Oh yeah, well, okay. Then you need to, once they, okay, if you're talking about starting things up, then yes. When you want to transplant is once you start, so they'll put up the first 2 leaves, which is like, so when the seed sprouts, it'll put up the 2 leaves. And then it'll spend like what seems like forever just sitting there with those 2 leaves. But what it's actually doing is it puts up those 2 solar panel leaves, and then using the sun's energy, it's setting its roots. So all that week or 2 weeks where it's just 2 little leaves like this, it's putting down its roots. And then once it's put down enough roots, then it will begin actual growth where you'll see 2 more actual leaves. That's when you can transplant it. That's when it's a good time to transplant, okay? It's when you see that additional new leaf growth, okay? Because that means that it's built up the root system that it needs. Thank you for your useful information. I've learned so much. Hey, you're very welcome, Marvin. It's my passion, man. I love it in every way. It just flows through me. I transplant from cups. Yep. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, man, this has been awesome. This is really great. It feels like I'm just having a big conversation with a bunch of friends. So if anyone has any burning question, give you a couple of minutes, but then we're going to sign off. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, everyone. All right, I appreciate all the questions, appreciate all the support and the feedback and everything like that. Remember the other 2 channels I mentioned, you know, I got a link to those on my, if you want to see the traveling stuff and all that. You know, it's entertaining, it's cool. And maybe some people are into that. But yeah, and remember, if you have any video idea suggestions, let me know, because I'm always open to that. All right. I have burning pee. What do I do? Compost it, my friend, and drink more water. Now, how do I turn it off? Okay, oh, here we go. All right, my friends.